There has been a lot written in history about the spirituality of the religious life, a bit on the diocesan priesthood, but little about the spirituality of the laity. Look no further than your baptismal identity to define what the lay faithful are called to be. When you were baptized and the sacred chrism oil was rubbed on the crown of your head, it made you a priest, prophet, and a king. In other words, every baptized person is another Christ, called to sanctify or bring God's presence to your corner of the world. Why? Because Christ was made known to the world through his body, that is, his incarnation or taking on flesh. Thus your anointed body took on his threefold mission: to be a priest through sacrifice, to be a prophet by your witness, and to be a king by your service. We were anointed to be a priest. The priestly aspect of a laity is not in offering the sacrifice of the Mass, but rather in the sacrifice of your life to be faithful to Christ. Through baptism, we share in the priesthood of Jesus Christ. And our letter to the Hebrews lays out some traits that we must imitate in Jesus the priest. We hear, "It was fitting that we should have such a high priest, holy, innocent, undefiled, separated from sinners." We are called to be holy, that is, set apart for God's purposes. The Catholic author Matthew Kelly wrote, "Nothing changes a person's life more than the discovery of one solitary truth. There is a meaning and purpose to life. More specifically, there is a meaning and purpose to your life." This comes from discovering the path God has laid before us. We are called to be innocent. Think blessed are the clean of heart. Soren Kierkegaard, the Danish philosopher, said a saint desires one thing. To be innocent is a desire only God. We are called to be undefiled. Think unblemished. For no Jew could offer to God an animal in sacrifice that had a blemish. If we are to offer the sacrifice of our very life, then we have to be unblemished through avoiding sin and utilizing the sacrament of reconciliation. Lastly, we are called to be separated from sinners. Your mom was right. You are hanging out with the wrong people, or at least you are letting them rub off on you. Sure, Jesus hung out with sinners, but the scriptures point out, though tempted in every way, he never gave in to sin. Jesus rather transformed sinners and called them to the fullness of life. We were anointed to be a prophet, or witness to the world. This looks different in every vocation. Simplistically, a religious brother or sister's spirituality is eschatological, that is, living 2 feet out of this world for the life to come in heaven, while a diocesan priest straddles the threshold between this life and the next, helping the lay faithful fulfill their earthly mission to evangelize the world, yet reminding them of their ultimate goal of heaven. Lastly, the spirituality of the laity is incarnational, that is, 2 feet in the world, never fleeing the world, but calling it to something better. In Jesus' terms, we are called to be salt, light, and leaven. This includes standing up for what is true and teaching the ways of the faith to young. We are anointed to be a king or practice Christian service, especially in the virtue of justice. One must realize that the power to rule is expressed first in ruling oneself and one's own inclinations to sin with the help of God's grace. St. Hilary wrote, "There are kings in whom sin does not reign, who rule their own body. These are kings, and their king is God." Kings also shepherd their people by providing for their needs. We are called to practice virtue, the habit of doing good, wherever we see deficiency. We must have no split or dichotomy between our spiritual life and daily life. For St. Catherine of Siena said that in our relationship with God, virtue is conceived, but it is not until we love our neighbor in a concrete way that virtue is given birth. We miscarry virtue from God when we fail to practice it. When we take our baptismal mission seriously, we are on track to sainthood and a better life now. For C.S. Lewis said, Aim at heaven, and you will get earth thrown in. Aim at earth, and you will get neither.